And our CEO and founder, Carissa Reiniger, will you take these people to the room?
Hey, everybody. Good to see you all. It's lovely to be here with you. We have a fun topic this morning, money. Money, 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 because officially the title, we'll say it 3 times because it's so complicated. I have so many interesting relationships to it. So what I want us to do, I've been doing this in all of the SLAP meets that I've been leading lately, and I've seen many of you at those. So it's nice to see many of you again. I'm going to start us with 1 minute of just thinking and doing nothing. The idea is that you got to put your hand in the air so that you're not tempted to type. You're not tempted to, look at a phone, get a quick email done. And for 1 minute, I want you to think about all of the words and just sort of let it happen. Don't, it's not a meditation. It's not an assignment. What are the words that come to your mind when you think about money, money, money? Are they positive words? Are they negative words? Are they anxious words? Are they hopeful words? Are they associations that you've got to certain points of life, certain people? Just let yourself see what happens. So I'm going to prompt you and say, think about money for a minute and see what happens. Columbo, let's take 1 minute on the clock. And I'm going to keep my hands in the air too, so I'm accountable to not doing bad things instead of thinking. Okay. So I'm just plugging my computer in as we talk to each other. So I'm going to be off camera for exactly 1.5 seconds, just because the plugin is right there. And I realized I didn't plug it before we started. But what, if anyone is so brave as they would be willing to share some of their words, in chat, if you feel up to it, but maybe Columbo, let's find 1 or 2 people who might even be willing to share with your voice. Should you be willing? Is there anyone that had an interesting experience? I see Brian's hand. Brian, I'd love to hear what you're thinking. And then everyone else start putting stuff into chat. What are all the words that came up? What are all the things that happened? Go ahead, Brian. I'm listening.
So for me, I started out with really negative thoughts. I was like anxiety, stress, and my entrepreneurial mind kicked in. And as you can see, what does it say behind me?
Oh, I love it.
Says welcome. Usually there's another one my wife has that says thank you, thankful. So
that's so nice.
I guess my mindset shifted, as I was, even viewing all the other entrepreneurs in the room and people who are driven. My mindset started to shift and I started to think about real positive things. The word strength kept coming back to my mind. The word perseverance, the word entrepreneurship and entrepreneurial, and my mindset started to shift. So as I started out with this really stressful kind of thoughts and feelings, and then I started to kind of gravitate towards boom. And so it was a beautiful opportunity for me to just kind of reflect on, this is how I normally think and feel, and this is me pushing through, and this is me, getting into the mindset. So I think even within 1 minute, I was able to shift those thoughts pretty quickly from anxiety and stress to strength and perseverance.
I love that. That's amazing. Thank you for being brave enough to share. The reason that we're starting with this is that sometimes we feel awkward talking about money, or sometimes it feels like we shouldn't talk about money or feels taboo. It's totally fine to talk about money. We're going to create the space to make it totally fine. And Brian, that was an amazing, amazing point of view. It was an amazing opening, because also what I love about what you said, first of all, is that you could change your relationship to it, right? You could feel one thing about it, and then all of a sudden you can feel something totally different about it. And that all happened in a minute, right? Imagine what happens over the course of a couple of years, right? Of being thoughtful and focused and disciplined and building the skill of making more of it. I mean, anything is possible. I really believe that. I see, and I'll share some of this with you guys today, but I've had a really torturous relationship with money. Like most small businesses, I went big, I went for it. I failed like crazy. I got myself into an astounding amount of debt. Figuring out how to pay it back was incredibly stressful. I have paid it all back. I did get it all figured out, but it took a long time. It took me about 10 years to fix the mistakes I made over the course of 2 or 3. And in the midst of that, I had to sort of renegotiate my relationship to money over and over and over and over and over again, because it's really hard to get good at making money, which is what Slap's here to help you do, if you have a really complicated relationship to it. Because oftentimes there's all sorts of things going on in our own relationship to it that impacts our ability to make it, sell it, charge what we deserve, all the very practical things that we're going to talk about today. So Brian, that was perfect. I couldn't have asked for or dreamed. I planted Brian. No, I'm just joking. I didn't plant anyone. You're all here to be yourselves and to say exactly what you say, but I couldn't have picked a better beginning. Is there anything else that happened? Maybe some of us did not have that beautiful experience of we started anxious, in a minute we were able to see positive. All of a sudden we see possibility. Did anyone else have sort of something that was particularly interesting that happened in that minute that you want to share? We can do one more share if there's somebody who's got something. I see Myra. Okay, let's go, Myra.
Hi, Carissa, good morning, everyone. I started out with responsibility, and then flow, and then convenience. And then right from after that, all of a sudden I started judging the thoughts. So I shifted from being curious and gently reflecting to like overthinking and judgment.
Thank you. We had a SAS retreat a couple of weekends ago. Some of the SASers are in the room. Our SASers are our Slapster All-Stars. I want all of you to be SASers. It basically means that you are a high-performing Slapster. You do all the things. Many of you in this room, I think, are well on your way to being SASers. So I'll see you at the next retreat, which I'd be excited about. But Myra, what you said that made me think about it is that we spent an exorbitant amount of time at the retreat really talking about like what our emotional overrun can be that hijacks our chance to optimize our performance. Because business is very straightforward. Money is very simple. There's no energy in it. It's transactional. And so, we have it, we spend it, we try to use it to make more of it. We have some sometimes, not as much other times. Business is simple. Slap is really simple, right? Set a goal, align behavior to do the goal, get structure and support, pause and reflect, and keep doing these things over and over again, right? It's so simple, but we as humans are so unendingly complicated. And so all of our stuff and our belief systems and the way we were born and all the things that we learned and all of the things that are happening around us. We did 2 times a year, we have an optional leadership training for our staff, for our team. And we call it Saturday Silver Lining. So a half Saturday, twice a year, our team gets together and we just do leadership training together. And we just did it this past Saturday and it was amazing. A big shout out to all the Silver Lining people that were there. But one of the things that was so interesting, the leadership training was on how to think better, how we think, how to change how you think. And he talked about the fact that 90% of our thoughts are just autopilot. They're not even what we actually think, but they're a combination of what we've been taught, what we've caught, and what we've experienced. And so it creates this override in our brain that basically just puts our thoughts on autopilot, and we put these thoughts over top of things that are really oh so simple. So Myra, I am so glad you said that, because the reality is most of us have been taught, caught, and experienced a lot of complicated feelings and emotions and perceptions about money. And even when we start to get ourselves to this place where we start to feel hopeful and like we've got control over it, those things that we have been taught, caught, and experienced can hijack it so quickly. So I want to play with that idea today, Amira. That's the perfect sort of like opportunity to think about our agenda today, because the idea is I want us to talk about the practical, non-emotional business strategy of money. We're going to do that. And then we're always going to create space for, okay, what is our human overlay? Like what happens in our human selves that prevents us from simply just doing the thing that is oh so simple, right? Because we don't. If we all just could do the thing that was oh so simple, we probably wouldn't need slap, right? So what is the thing? And by the way, I always start these conversations saying, right, what's the famous phrase that everyone that teaches is trying to figure it out themselves or whatever? I totally butchered the phrase, right? I really think I built slap because this is my own journey too. I have had such a complicated relationship to money. I have failed so many times. I have struggled to build the business to hit the goals that I've wanted it to hit for 19 years. I am with you. I built it for me, I think, and all of you. And so I just want to make sure you guys know I am not in this room pretending I've got it all figured out, because I never will. None of us does. If anyone does think they do, I think they're either lying or have lost their way somehow. But I can share my experiences. We can share our experiences with each other. And so this is going to be a different type of money talk. It's not going to be if you do these 5 things, you will magically grow your portfolio. It'll be here's some practical things about business. Here's how money works. Like, let's figure it out. And now what's the human overlay that gets in our way of implementing basic strategies to make the money that we want to make? So that's what we're going to do. So I am going to share my screen as a starting point. I want to give you guys the first simple concept of the day. We're going to talk about money in very practical terms today. It's not going to be anything fancy or crazy, but we've been working on something at Silver Lining that I'm really excited about. And I just want to give you guys a kind of a view of it. And then we're going to talk about it, all of us together. So one of the things that I hear from small businesses over and over and over and over again is that if they could just get a loan, or if they could just raise capital, or that part of their business strategy is to go get a grant, that they've added a grant as a revenue stream in their slap, that all of a sudden that would solve all their problems. And I am here to tell you that is not true. That is more than likely not the case. And so this is a concept that we've developed, I should say, we're starting to talk about more, but it's the idea of a small business capital stack. How do you get the money you need to grow your business? How do you build a capital stack? And a capital stack is a term we've made up. It's not a real term, but it's the idea that like fancy companies have like tech stacks, right? We're a software company. We have a tech stack, and your tech stack is like how you layer in all the different types of technology you need and integrate them to ultimately build the full functioning amount of technology to run your software or whatever it is that you have. So we have a capital stack. We're proposing that there's a small business capital stack that we want you all to consider. And that at the top of the stack is profitable, sustainable revenue. And before we can talk about access to capital, which is what everyone wants to talk about, access to capital, we should be talking about ensuring every small business owner has the right strategy, structure, and support to build a profitable and sustainable business. Only then can we assess the right capital for our needs. So we often, again, I'm just going to go back to this for a second. And again, we're going to talk about this. I want all of your guys' thoughts and we're going to explore it together. But what happened during COVID is that we were in a crisis. And so grants and government funding started flowing into every corner of the world, as it should have. I actually think that despite the fact that inflation has happened and the economy is all very confusing and everything that's wonky is happening in the world, I think that by and large, the response to COVID was appropriate, right? We needed to get capital into the market so that people could survive. We had to save businesses, we had to save jobs. And so I think governments and corporations flooded the market, right, with either cheap debt or grants. Corporations all launched their programs to give small businesses grants. And all of a sudden, we became an economy and a small business community incredibly reliant on grants of all things. It's so fascinating to me. It's like such a weird, I have been doing this for 19 years, and only in the last 2 years have I heard so many slapsters say, I'm just going to apply for grants as one of my revenue streams. Oh, don't do that. Sell something. Don't do that. That makes no sense. So we have become hyper reliant on grants. But grants were originally intended, and I believe are properly used, for reward. You want a prize, you want a thing, here's a grant, or in crisis, right? As we saw them used during COVID, appropriately. But we've now built like an economic reliance on them. And I see small business owners in particular, and this really worries me. I'm going to say this to you guys all very frankly. I'm very worried about the fact that I hear so many small business owners say that getting a grant is their solution for how to grow their business. That's really not the right solution to grow a business. It is a reward and it's for a crisis. It's not a sustainable strategy. So the most sustainable strategy is profitable, sustainable revenue. The most powerful way, the more significant way to protect your autonomy, your business, your growth, your sustainability is to make sure you're generating revenue and to make sure that that revenue is profitable and sustainable. We're going to talk about that a lot today. How do you make sure you drive profitable, sustainable revenue? How do you have the right goals? I mean, that's going to be the focus of our time together today. But that's got to be first. I have seen so many businesses, because they're not first profitable and sustainable, right, go take on debt or think that if they raise equity investment, they're going to like solve all their problems. Usually if you take on debt and or raise investment, right, before you are profitable and sustainable, it delays the problem you're having today. It doesn't solve it. It usually delays it. But on top of it, now you've either got debt you got to pay back and or investors that are on your back. So most of the time, we end up in a worse position if our businesses are not sustainable and profitable, and we try to implement these workaround solutions as opposed to solving the root issue. If your business is struggling with profitability and sustainability, the answer is to make profitable sales. It is to generate more revenue. It is to hit your sales target. That is the primary answer. Now, as we do that, let's assume that we've got the right sales goals, we've got the right actions, we're doing the right things, we're moving against our profitable, sustainable revenue goals, we're in the right direction, we understand exactly where we're at, and we need a little bit of capital. We've got to buy inventory. We need to make an investment in something. We need more capital than we have. We're having a bad cash flow month. Our invoices are delayed, right? There's all these reasons why cash flow sucks. Debt can be a very good solution to solve cash flow issues, but it shouldn't be used to solve strategy issues. And that's the big issue that I see. I made this mistake. Let me speak for myself. I made this mistake over and over and over and over again until I ended up in $500,000 of debt, because I kept thinking, oh no, I have a cash flow crisis. Oh no, I have another crisis. Oh no, I've got another crisis. If I just borrow some money, I'll be able to get through this moment. And then my business is going to be so amazing that I'll be able to pay it back. And it's true. My business is so amazing. And I was able to pay it back. But it took me, 10 years, not 3 months like I assumed. And so when we start taking on high interest debt with the idea that's going to be a quick fix, almost never does that work. Also, think about interest rates, right? If the profit margin on your business is 15% and you take on credit card debt or like an alternative loan at 26%, it doesn't take a lot of math, right, to start to realize there's no way out of this. You're not winning, right? You are going to be spending so much money servicing the debt that even if you do make the revenue that you were planning to use to pay it back, the numbers don't make sense, because if the debt interest rate is higher than your profit margin, you're ending up in a bad situation. So we keep thinking again, right? The common conversation everywhere right now is access to capital. silver lining lends to small businesses. I mean, we are trying to help solve this problem of access to capital. And I say to every single slapster, every single time they say, do you think I should get a slap loan? I say, no, I don't. I think you should do revenue. I think you should focus on your slap goals. And if you have a strategic reality where a loan will help you through a cash flow period, it'll support getting you to your 1-year goal, sure, let's do it. And let's do it in a way that's fair and just and reasonable for you. But in general, no, I would prefer you not to get a slap loan. I'd prefer you not to get debt. I want it to be there in case you need it, but I prefer you don't have to use it because you're building a profitable, sustainable business. And then investment, one of the great conundrums that I can never figure out, I don't know how this happened, but venture capital is not designed for the collective. It is not a financial vehicle. Think of all the types of loans and all the types of investments that you could, invest in or get or be a part of. They're all financial products. In venture capital is a financial product that was always intended to be deployed for very, very, very specific use cases. It was meant to add capital to a business that was probably not profitable and sustainable, quite honestly. Accelerate, like dramatically accelerate the growth, pump it up with steroids, basically, and then sell it within 5 to 7 years, get out of there and get a return for everyone who put the money in. It's a very specific vehicle, financial product for a very specific use case. But if I had $1 for every time a small business owner said to me that they wanted to raise capital, find investors, I'd be a billionaire at this point. But that doesn't make any sense. Do you plan to scale dramatically, pump your business with steroids, have investors breathing down your neck, and then sell and exit and create a massive return for everyone that invests in the next 5 to 7 years? Probably not for most of you. Maybe like 1 or 2 of you in this room have that plan, but that's not the game that small businesses are playing. Small businesses are playing smart, organic growth, which is a more profitable and a more sustainable game. It is a better game, quite frankly, if you look at sort of macroeconomics. We need more of that in our economy. And so what's happening is, what I believe is happening, and this is what we're going to talk about, when we look at this small business capital stack, we look at the ways to get capital into your bank account. The best, the primary, the most important is profitable, sustainable revenue. And note, I don't say revenue. I say profitable, sustainable revenue. Because if your SLAP goals are not set up properly, and if your revenue streams are not profitable, revenue is going to kill your business, ironically, right? That was one of my big issues. The reason I kept taking on bad debt, not fair debt, is that my business model didn't work. And so I kept generating revenue. We were growing like crazy. We were not in crisis. I was making sales all day long, but my profit margin was out of whack. And so my revenue was actually killing my business because I brought in more money, but then it cost me too much to deliver it. And I kept getting myself further in the hole, even though on paper and for all intents and purposes, the company was very successful. It had good revenue. The revenue was growing, but it wasn't profitable revenue and it wasn't sustainable revenue. And so it wasn't working. And then instead of bringing in fair debt to solve that problem, I brought in bad debt. So I layered problems on problems, right? I didn't solve my root issue, was my profitability and my inability to figure out how to crack the code on selling profitable, sustainable revenue. And then instead of trying to solve it with fair debt, I solved it with bad debt, high interest, complicated debt. And then ironically, I kept getting investment deals. I kept getting offers from VCs for them to make investments in Silver Lining because they liked what was happening. They liked all this quick growth. They were interested in it. I was young. I was a female. It was like a really, they were like kind of like, that's interesting. We should invest in Silver Lining. But I didn't want their money because I knew what would happen is that as soon as I took their money, my responsibility as someone that takes on investment would be that I would have to serve my investors. They would have to be my primary stakeholder. That's the deal when you take on investors. The investors aren't bad for that. That's the reality of the mechanism. If you take on investors, yeah, you have a responsibility to the investors. I didn't want it. I wanted my responsibility to be to you guys. So I didn't want to add that to my world. I needed to figure out a more sustainable solution because I didn't want my primary stakeholder be an investor anymore. And I understood if I took their money, then responsibly, that would be my job. My job would be to create a return on investment if I took investment capital. And back then, grants weren't available so readily. That's a really like a post-COVID interesting conundrum that's happened. And so I danced between profitable, sustainable revenue and bad debt for about 10 years. And I leveraged bad debt to get me out of crisis. And then I had to work even harder to generate profitable, sustainable revenue to get out of it. And I'm pleased to say that, now we rely 100% on profitable, sustainable revenue to grow silver lining. We don't have outside capital in the business. And it was so much harder, but it is so much better to have built a business where our primary capital, right, is profitable, sustainable revenue. And that is what SLAP is trying to help you guys do, is to not get in this mess of bringing on bad debt, not bringing on equity investment, because that's not the game you're playing, right? It's a different game to be playing a VC-backed game, and to stop this reliance on grants, because it's not also good for our economy. It's not good for you. It's all drying up anyways, right? So if you're reliant on it, you're in trouble. It's just not good for the economy either. So what we have to do as business owners is first build profitable, sustainable revenue. That is the first move of a successful business owner. Then find fair debt only if needed. And unless the whole world of equity investment changes dramatically, avoid equity investment. That doesn't make sense. You're going to have completely different pressure on you to do something completely different than you're doing right now if you bring on investors. And remove this idea that grants are the solution. They're not. They were in 2020, maybe 2021. They were deployed as necessary, but the reliance on them has to stop. We've got to get back to holding ourselves accountable to generating profitable, sustainable revenue. And the last thing I'll say about this, and I'm going to stop sharing my screen so we can talk about it, but the reality is you're a business owner. So one of the responsibilities of being a business owner is to generate profitable, sustainable revenue. I mean, I feel like if there was like on a job description, like the third line would be generate profitable, sustainable revenue, figure out how to generate profitable, sustainable revenue, right? It's not write grant applications. It's not, I don't know, entertain VC investments and go to pitch contests for deals that you'll never get because it doesn't make sense for your business, right? It's generate profitable, sustainable revenue. That is the intent. That's the point of having a business. So that's the opening point of view I want to offer. So let's just open the floor. Comments or questions? What's coming up? First of all, does anyone have any questions about the concept of how we start to be very, very on purpose about how we understand and use and generate capital, right? Bring money into our business in order to, right, get ourselves to where we want to be. Comments, questions, thoughts as a starting point. I see this, there's so many chats. So I'm just going to take a quick, I'm going to take a quick scroll, but if anyone has anything they want to say, come off mute and just go for it.
Well, Carissa, we have a question. I'm sorry. We have a question in Q&A. Should nonprofits include grants as a potential revenue source?
So I'm going to say, so I'll answer that question and then I see Balali and we'll go to her next. So here's, sorry. All right. Let's just have a chat about this. So I hate the idea that we file our taxes as for-profits and not-for-profits. I think it's ridiculous. I think there should be a totally different tax code globally where all of us that run small organizations file our taxes as a small organization. I don't know, whatever the right term for it would be. It is true that the way money works right now. So this is one of those conundrums of the way we wish it was and the way that it is. The way that it should be, the way that I wish it was, the way that I would advocate would be better for everyone would be that whether your business files your taxes as a for-profit or a not-for-profit, you are running a financially profitable, sustainable organization, and you are making an impact in the world, right? Your work is making the world better. That should be, those two things should be the absolute basic requirements of any organization. So if you, it is kind of astounding to me, quite frankly, that businesses have just removed the burden of social progress completely from their mindset. But it is also astounding to me that nonprofits have released the burden of financial sustainability completely from their thinking. Each of those things are equally crazy in my brain. They're equally bananas to me. And so every nonprofit board that I'm on is profitable, right? Like we work on revenue streams, and we work on fee for service, and we work on ways that we can secure funding that is alternative to just sitting in a room and writing grants and, hoping someone will bestow money on us. And so I am a very big believer that in the exact same way that I try to hold all of us in this community accountable to thinking about impact, right? Build your profit, build your revenue, be profitable and sustainable, and have an impact goal, right? What are you going to do with your success? What's the impact of your business going to be on the world? I believe the same burden is held on nonprofits. Be all in on mission. And are you running a tight ship? Do you have a way to make this thing actually work? Can you get out of the rigor of just writing grants and then hoping and praying that someone will give you a donation? There's tax realities to how we file our taxes. I get it. I think it's irrelevant. I think it should not be the thing that we limit ourselves by. So if I could wave a magic wand, the concept of for-profit and nonprofit would go away, and we would all be building organizations that make the world better for whatever reason and in whatever way we can. And we would all be accountable to sustainability, right? Profit and sustainability, right? Something that can generate income and sustain its operations, pay for itself. So that's like the broad answer to the question. That being said, I always say there is an ideal reality, and then there is a real reality, a current reality. The current reality is that the way money flows in the world, right, is businesses generate income, they pay taxes, and or move their cash into foundations. And so the money that is available to go get to do good work is either sitting in governments, right, programs that get distributed, and or in foundations, family foundations or corporate foundations. And then philanthropy flows into nonprofit organizations. So think about how crazy that is, right? All of the transaction is happening in the businesses. All the money is getting made and transacted with the only purpose of making as much of it as possible. Right? Imagine if all that money that was being made was also thinking about the fair distribution of wages. It was also thinking about good supply chains. It was also thinking about environmental responsibility. It was also making sure that women got paid the same as men, and people of color got paid the same as people who are white. Imagine we actually just generated economy, did transactions, generated, and also, while we did it, just did the right thing, right? First of all, that in and of itself would change the world, and we would eliminate the need for nonprofit organizations. So that would be the ideal state. But right now what happens is we do all these transactions. We don't think about the good. Well, we do in this group, but most businesses don't, right? They're just making money. And then because they don't want to pay a lot of taxes, they're taking all their profit that they make, they're stripping it out of the economy. They're putting it over into this second system, which is the nonprofit system. They're putting all their money into foundations and tax havens and all these things. But now that money is in those things, the only way that legally they can spend it, they can distribute it, is into nonprofit organizations. They can't take all that money that they made doing business and do business with it. They can only give it away to nonprofits. So the way money flows and the way these structures are built is ridiculous. And so it confines us, right, to being either businesses that are doing deals, transactions, or nonprofits that are going and begging for all the money that sits in these foundations. And it's dumb. If we eliminated this double system and we all just did transactions that made sense, I mean, it would be so much more efficient. It would be so much better for everyone. But it's not the way it is. So the ideal state is, no, I don't want you to write grants as a nonprofit. I want you to be profitable and sustainable. I want you to have revenue. I want you to have earned income. I want you to build an organization, regardless of how you file your taxes, that is profitable, sustainable, and making the world better. And we live in an unideal world, which annoys me every day. And so money flows the way we just articulated. And so you're going to have to write grants. You're going to have to beg rich people for their, foundation downflow. But I think we can do it differently. I would still say, what if we stop asking them for grants and we get them to become partners in programs? What if we, get them to move and use their money differently and start to set the tone for a different type of deal we want with them? So I would still say, stop writing grants and do a deal. but acknowledge it in the systems we live in. That sounds like getting a grant. Is probably a long answer to that question. But go ahead, Bunlali, go ahead. I want to see what you're saying.
The way that you broke it down on the last screen, why the building a sustainable and profitable business, it just makes all the sense in the world. And I feel the same way. That was my observation, I should say, about the grants. Like, okay, that this could not possibly last, because the purpose of the business is to be profitable and sustainable. And and I'm living that life right now with the debt, and so I'm happy to have gotten this information like right now, just so that I can focus on the right actions and keeping myself accountable to making sure that I'm executing the right actions.
Perfect. I'm glad, because here's one of the things I'll say, and I'm glad that you shared that, Blondie. Probably most of you guys have debt right now, right? Because there were so many like cheap loans that happened during the last couple of years. So everyone took on debt, and then all of a sudden we're like, oh crap, now we have debt. What I did, but I would say don't do this. Don't do what I did, is that when the debt starts to get stressful, we go get more debt to try to manage the debt we have. That is the game I started to play that really effed me. It got me into I won't even talk about it. Well, we will talk about it. We can talk about it, but oh my God. And so the game right now, but Lolly, as you talk about your example, okay, yeah, you got that good debt. You got that fair debt during COVID. We all did. Okay, great. The game now is, right, 2023, 2024. What I'm most worried about in the economy is I actually think we're going to see more small businesses struggling in the next 2 years than the last 2 years, because there was so much false economy that flooded, right? You guys did get debt. You guys did get grants. And so it covered the truth of where there's gaps in your profitability and sustainability and revenue. But that capital is freezing up. It's not happening anymore, right? We work in 76 countries, and the trend everywhere, it's not continuing, right? All the banks are making it harder to get loans again. Cap risk assessments getting tougher. Grant programs are ending or have stopped entirely. And so there's an urgency, which is why we're doing this session today. There's an urgency for us to get back to focus on good, solid business practices, right? Revenue, finding who our customer is, making sure we're priced right, and doing enough aligned activity to generate sales. Because I do have concern, not anxiety, because I think every problem is solvable, but I am aware of, and I have concern about, and I'm trying to get all of your attention, right? That we have a sort of a masked economy. And so it looks better than it is. And all of us have been living in times that are better than our businesses probably really are. And that's okay, right? Again, I think that the mechanisms that were deployed in the COVID years were appropriate. But we now have a responsibility to make sure that we understand what's happened, right? And we've got the right plan for what we do moving forward, right? And the right plan is going to have to be, with even more urgency, in my opinion, profitable, sustainable revenue. Because debt's going to get harder. Investment's already drying up. We see it, right? And again, most of us in this room don't have businesses that are investable, right? That's not the game we're playing. And grants are ending. So the game that's left for us to play, right, which we happen to be very good at, so no problem, we'll figure it out, is profitable, sustainable revenue. All right, Rachel, I see your hand.
Hi, thank you. This is awesome. My question, and you might be covering this later, so if you are, just tell me to wait till then, is that right now we're having a really challenging probably 6 months in our business, because what we're seeing is the people that we serve are also going through this exact same thing. And our major client is the government, which budgets are fun right now. So, when we're talking about, okay, so like we may be in a very, huge setback. We're having huge setbacks on revenue. We were doing really well last year. We doubled our revenue in the last 2 years. And now this year it's like 50, we're already 50% down in sales in the last 6 months, which is insane. So in this moment, we're like, okay, is this going to get, do we keep doing what we're doing, but, or is this a huge pivot moment? Is this a time to say like, okay, we need to adjust our course correct? And my question is, when you have that, don't want to go get bad debt, but at the same time, we need to like survive to make the pivot. How do we decide how much kind of, we need so we can make the pivot to the new sustainable, profitable revenue?
Yes, it's a very good question. I also appreciate you asking it, because I would imagine that a lot of people in this room have the same reality, right? The same question. So let's do this. What I want to shift to, can everyone get a pen and a paper to exactly, Rachel, we're going to literally see if we can answer that question in the most practical of senses. I just want to get my pen. Everyone get a pen and paper if you can. If you don't have one, grab one. Okay. What I want us to do is I want us to do a bit of an evaluation. If you are in front of your computer and you have your Slap Center account open, that's great. Actually, I would say you're not cheating. That's lovely. That's very good. So get your Slap up if you can, and get a pen and paper. And what I want us to do is start to think about what it means to set the right goal, right? And what it means, when is it the right decision to change strategy, right? When do we double down? When do we walk away? Like Rachel, as I hear your question, I'm like, interesting. Like, does she need a new ideal client? Because the government is going to be a mess for the next 3 or 4 years probably. And like, oh my, like, how does she weather that? Or, so I don't know. Or do we find the opportunity in the mess, right? The answer is always, do we have to change the strategy because it's messy, or is there opportunity in the mess? That's our job as business owners, to keep asking, right? So what I want us to do is I'm going to ask you guys a bunch of questions, and I just want you to write down whatever is true for you. You cannot pass or fail. It is not a test. It is an exploration. So if you're an overachiever that's starting to get worried, don't be. You're not going to report out your answers. Just explore. We're just going to do a strategic exploration around this question of what are the choices that we need to make to be able to get to profitable, sustainable revenue. Okay. And the choices are going to be different for everyone in the room. So that's why I'm saying there's quite literally no right or wrong answer, but we're going to take the time to explore those choices together. All right. So number one, I want us to all center back into our SLAP statement. So what is your SLAP statement? And if you can't remember it off the top of your head, that's a little note for yourself. Ideally, you know your SLAP statement so well that it is the filter for everything you do. Every yes, every no, every choice, every investment. So your SLAP statement has 4 things. Your business name, I will say that's an easy one. That should be easy. But then what you do, who you do it for, and the scale you do it on. Okay. In general, before COVID, I was relentless about SLAP statement. I was like, you never change your SLAP statement. I was just like, there is never a scenario. If you're changing your SLAP statement, you're shutting down your business and you're starting a new business. And then a global pandemic hit, and it changed the world order so significantly that in the last 2 years, I've been like, maybe you have to change your SLAP statement. Maybe something shifted in the way that the world works, the economy works, the way money flows, right? Like the pandemic really was a cosmic event. It really did shift a lot of systems. And so for the first time, literally, in 19 years, in the last year or so, I've started, well, maybe we need to look at your SLAP statement. So what is your SLAP statement, right? Like, what do you do? That's the first thing, right? I sell SLAPs. Who do you do it for? I do it for small business owners who are focused on organic growth, right? Owner operated, self-funded, all of you. Their business is their full-time job, their full-time career. And then on what scale? My scale is global. What I would offer is, in your own exploration, is your what. Is what you do still relevant? And that is a crappy question to ask, because relevant feels very mean and scary. But it's a good and important question, right? Some businesses that I think were less relevant, some whats that were less relevant before COVID have become oddly relevant. I'm trying to think of a good example, but things that kind of were like, who cares? Everyone needs them now, right? Oh, I have a good example, actually. A lap desk. I have never been like targeted so much for like, work from home lap desks that can like go on your couch or go on your table. That was like an irrelevant business for the most part before COVID, right? Very few people needed to buy a lap desk. Everyone and their dog now buys a lap desk, right? So you see that there are these things that were not that relevant before COVID that are highly relevant today. The relevance went up. But then there are things that were really relevant before COVID and their relevance has just gone down. The what is just less relevant because people have changed. Your customers have changed. Consumers have changed. Our daily habits have changed. So we have to each do an evaluation. I saw Rebecca, I love my lap desk for the record. I have an $8 lap desk. It's the best thing that's ever happened to me. I was doing it way before COVID for the record. I've been sitting in my pajamas on my couch on a lap desk for a good 15 years. So I was before the trend. But is it relevant? It's okay if it's not relevant. Don't worry, you're relevant, but what you do may be less relevant. So just tell the truth. Is it relevant? You are relevant, your business is relevant. What you do may not be as relevant. Now your who, right? If you guys have if you believe in SLAP, if you sort of subscribe to the philosophy, your who is your ideal client. And the philosophy of SLAP is that we don't have enough time and money to have a target market, right? We don't have enough time and money to like market to everyone who's between 33 and 55, in the world. People spend billions of dollars, right? Trying to have enough brand impressions to reach that many people. So what we need instead is an ideal client, a very clearly defined human that we sell to, right? That is the person that buys from us, right? And then we connect with that person, right? That avatar over and over and over again. So I don't want you to think about whether or not your who is right, but I want you to think about how much your who's life has changed in the last couple of years. Has their reality shifted? Does their life look different because of how many systemic changes have happened in the last couple of years, right? Most people's lives look quite a bit different than they did a couple of years ago, right? And so it doesn't matter that your life looks different. I care, but it's irrelevant from a strategy point of view. But it certainly matters from a strategy point of view if your ideal client's life looks different. What does their day look like? What are their priorities? What do they have pressure on them for? Where do they live, right? We had a lot of movement in the last couple of years. Maybe if your scale is local and half your customers moved, I don't know, to Florida where everyone's moving. I don't know where everyone's moved, but where they've moved, Portugal and Florida. I feel like everyone's moved to Portugal and Florida. Well, then maybe your local focus has to change. Maybe you need to find a way to, be available more broadly so that you don't lose all those clients that you spent all these years building. Or maybe you need to realize that you have to completely reestablish yourself locally because a lot of your lifelong customers have gone, right? So what is the truth of who your ideal client is, how their life has changed? And this is the one critical mistake that business owners make when we're thinking about business strategy. We tend to spend most of our time thinking about ourselves. We're irrelevant, right? What matters is our ideal client. They're the ones we have to strategize against. So what is the reality of your ideal client? And then what is the relevance of what you do for them in the new world order? And in some instances, you will discover, my relevance has gone even higher in general, but especially for my ideal client, or I feel like what I do is really relevant, but my ideal client doesn't care anymore. They've changed, right? But what's changed in your what and the relevance of it? What's changed in your who? And is it still the right SLAP statement, right? Now, I'm really lucky. I'm in the category of lucky. I'm strategically lucky. SLAP is more relevant than it was before COVID, right? We've got to get more urgently focused on changing the economy through small business. We've got to get more urgently focused on giving all of you the right structure and support to build profitable, sustainable businesses. So SLAP actually became more relevant. My ideal client, all of you, I think in general, what we see is that you are actually a little more open to structure and support than you were before COVID. So to some degree, it's been good for us. On the other hand, what we see in the system, right, is our ideal client, all of you. I've never seen people so stressed. I've never seen so much mental health, right? I'm worried about, right? The capital stack. I'm worried about how money is flowing and the sort of the false economy that a lot of people are teetering on and the crisis that people are in, right? Most small businesses went through some level of crisis. So I'm worried about you guys, not in a way of like, oh my God, it's a disaster, but I see how you're under more pressure, right? My ideal client, all of you are under more pressure than I've ever seen before in the 19 years of doing this. And that's not good. That's not ideal, because under pressure, it's harder to make good decisions. It's harder to be sustained and focused, right? So when I think about my SLAP statement, it holds, right? It holds post-COVID. My strategy is solid, right? Keep selling SLAPs to small businesses on a global scale. It is still relevant. Arguably, it's more relevant and it's more urgent. And I can't not take into account the fact that all of you, my ideal client, are under a sustained and significant amount of pressure, right? And that does have an impact on your ability to use SLAP, on your ability to stay focused and disciplined, on your ability to power through, right? On your stamina, on all the things that matter, right? If we're trying to do the work we're here to do together. So I think about that all the time. I'm strategically very aware of that. And I'm trying to continually design, solutions and interventions and conversations like this, right? To give us the space to decompress, to handle the pressure, to build the capacity for the pressure that I believe you're all under. Me too, right? All of us are under. So do you guys see that thinking? Your SLAP statement and the strategic question that Rachel's asking, before we can ask, does she need to go get money? We've got to ask, does she have the right SLAP statement, right? And I would ask the question to all of you. Has there been a cosmic enough shift that there needs to be a shift in your SLAP statement? Question number one. Okay. Second question, and then we're going to open it up for conversation. We've got 4 questions to ask. So what, who scale? More or less relevant than the cosmic changes of the last world? Changes in the realities of it because the world has changed, right? What can we learn about the relevance and the shifts and the changes in our what or who in our scale that we need to account for in our strategy? When we have that clear, then we're in a position to design our revenue streams. Now, revenue streams, you guys, this is like a very important part of SLAP that I think gets missed a lot. Not your fault, my fault if it's not obvious all the time. I need to be better at that. But your revenue streams are how you do what you do. Okay, I would say it again. Your revenue streams are how you do what you do, right? So I sell SLAPs. That's my what. My revenue streams are how I sell SLAP, right? It's a monthly subscription service, right? We all know that. Then we have another revenue stream where partners subsidize the cost of SLAP for the small businesses in their community to help us so that we can make the access for all policy available to as many people as humanly possible. And then we have speaking fees, right? I speak a lot. People pay me to speak about these things, to teach SLAP basically, right? And we really only have in our business model 3 revenue streams: SLAP subscriptions, SLAP monthly payments, partner subsidies, and speaking and thought leadership fees, right? That's it. So we have a very simple business model. We have 1 what, and we have 3 ways of how we sell what we do. That's a good business, right? I want every business to have 3 minimum, 5 maximum revenue streams, 3 to 5. If it's 1, that's very dangerous. And if it's like 27, come on. That's a very complicated sales conversation and/or website and/or delivery process you have to build, right? 3 to 5 revenue streams. And the way you know you've got good revenue streams, right? Strategically aligned revenue streams is if you can honestly say that each of them are how you do what you do, right? So I would want you to be able to say it out loud, right? We deliver SLAPs, right? My what is SLAPs? We deliver SLAPs through monthly subscriptions. We deliver SLAPs through partner subsidies. We deliver SLAPs through speaking and thought leadership, right? That's how we do it. That is how we deliver what we do, how we sell and deliver it. So your revenue streams are the 3 to 5 ways that you deliver your what. You sell and deliver. Okay. So I sell and deliver my what in this way, in this way, in this way, and in this way. One of the reasons that I see small businesses get really off track and find themselves burnt out, stressed, pulled in a million directions, get into stages of stuck, busy, overwhelmed, exhausted, is because they have too many revenue streams. That's one option. Or their revenue streams are not actually strategically aligned to what they do. So you're walking around telling everyone, you know, I own a small marketing agency. Oh, that's so nice. Like, what do you do? Right? This is where you get to have really organized revenue streams. Well, we have a branding package that's $5,000. We have a 6-month social media intervention program for $8,000. We have a do-it-yourself downloadable brand guide where you can use our branding process and try and do it yourself for $500. And we do really great. We do like half-day brand consults where you pay $1,000 and you get to pick our brain and we brainstorm and you take it and you do it yourself, right? So that's like 5 revenue streams that are all how a small business could do what they do, which is marketing services, let's say. What I hear instead all the time is, well, this is what I do. I'm a small marketing agency, but I could do anything. Do you want us to come set up your computer servers? Do you want us to come design your new packaging? That's not marketing, that's product design, right? I can do this, I can do that, I can do this. And it's in the disorganization and it's in the strategic mess of your revenue streams that most small businesses fail. It's not because you can't make revenue. It's because you've become messy in your revenue streams. You are trying to sell and deliver things that are not aligned to what you do. And when that happens, when there's too many revenue streams or too few, and when they cannot all stack up and layer into one what, so that they're not strategically aligned, that's when your capacity just falls apart. That's when you're busy and overwhelmed and stressed. Ronald, I love that he just wrote, I'm so messy. Ronald, I love you. Welcome to the club. I would guess if we were like an AA meeting and everyone had to put up their hand and say like, I'm an alcoholic. If everyone had to put their hand and say, I'm messy, we would have a very active room. Your revenue streams are where your strategy falls apart. It is the number one mistake I see people make. And we think, here's the thing, okay? I'm going to say one more thing. Ronald, take this to heart. I love you. Welcome to the club. You're okay. We're all with you. If you have more than one what, and more than one who, you are pretend, quietly, fake running 2 businesses. So now instead of having to be really good at one thing and really good at connecting with one ideal client, you got to figure out how to find enough time and money to be really good at doing that twice. Does anyone in this room have too much time and money? Please put your hand up. But please, I'd like to see, I'm looking at all your faces, right? I'm going to does anyone have too much time and too much money? Anybody? Anybody? I'm scanning. I don't see anybody that has too much time and too much money. So you can't have 2 whats and 2 whos. I'm sorry. That means that you're going to take the limited amount of time and money you have. You're going to now divide it into 2. How's that going to work for you? And you're going to spend even less time and money on this what and who, and even less time and money on that what and who. How do you think that's going to go? How do you think that is going to go for your efforts to generate profitable, sustainable revenue? Not well is the answer. I will tell you the answer. It's not going to go well. And then let's say you have multiple whats and whos, which most of you do. I'm telling truth now. Now I'm just speaking my truth. I'm getting all of my frustrations out right now about all of our lovely slapsters. All these whats and whos. And then these revenue streams, my friends, these revenue streams. What are you talking about? You can't do 95% of the things you say you're going to do, or you don't want to. Why would you? 3 to 5, 3 to 5 that are strategically aligned to your what. Every single time a small business owner gets really aligned on one what and one who, right? One scale, and then really aligns their revenue streams 3 to 5. So they are all about how they will strategically sell and deliver what they do. Their business starts to grow instantly. It is in the mess we create that we waste our precious time, money, and energy. And our instinct, right, from a psychology point of view, this is like one of the most fascinating things. Our instinct, our natural, like knee-jerk response when we don't have enough money, we don't have enough sales, we're not hitting our sales goals. Our instinct is to add new stuff. Add a new what? Add a new who? Add a new revenue stream. That is always our instinct. It's always our first reaction. But discipline and focused strategic management of a business does not support that decision. It is to become more disciplined, more rigorous, use the precious time and energy and money you have in an even more strategic way to get to outcomes. Okay. So first thing we're exploring, your what and your who. What's the relevance? What's changed? What do you have to take into account? Number two, your revenue streams, right? Are they all an extension? Are they all just the ways that you do what you do? Or have they become scattered and unfocused? Are they all over the place? Sometimes I'm not saying this to be mean. I'm saying this to make light of what I think is a very stressful situation. Sometimes I go look at people's slaps and I look at their revenue streams and I just think, oh no, and I'll furiously like midnight work sessions. I'll create tickets for our slap experts. Like, please call this small business. Please help them get rid of like 8 of these revenue streams because they're not aligned. They're going to distract them. They're going to make them tired. It's not going to work. So it's the number one strategic mistake. Okay. Now let's pretend we've got clarity on our what and our who. Let's pretend we've got clarity on, right, if our revenue streams are aligned and or not. Third question, third thing for us to process and imagine and think about. Your expenses. Now, I think you guys know this, but in case you don't, in case we want to re-emphasize it, when you build your slap, it's a calculation. You're doing inputs. We're giving you a little lesson. We're asking you some questions, right? And then you are giving us inputs. Before you get to revenue streams, we ask you about your expenses. We ask you about your personal expenses, and we ask you about your fixed business expenses, and you list them out. And we want you to be really honest. We need to make sure your businesses are covering your expenses, right? That's like mission control number 1. And so if you're struggling with cash flow, I'm actually a believer for like a couple slap years, abandon a profit goal, put 0 in there or put $1 in your profit goal, just, symbolically, let's make $1 of profit. What really matters in sustainability and profitability is that your revenue covers your expenses, right? You're not in a position where you're recognizing that if you have a bad 6 months, right, all of a sudden your ability to pay your rent goes away because then we're in crisis. And when we're in crisis, we have to make harder decisions. And I don't want you guys in that position. So the first trick to expense management is what I call fixed expenses, right? I really want all of you guys to have a point of view on the minimum amount of money that you can live on. Not, hear me on this, not so that you live in scarcity, because that is the instinct of most entrepreneurs, right? We naturally go to scarcity mentality. It's the opposite. I think you should have an unending opportunity mentality because I believe that's possible, that's true, and that's real. And strategically, when things get hard, the best thing to do is to cut every single expense humanly possible so that you don't have to take on bad debt, so that you don't have to go get a side job, so that you don't have to take on a client that will totally mess with your strategy and your focus and your discipline. And all of a sudden you're like doing a bunch of things that make no sense. And in a year from now, you've lost your way with your business strategy. So the best move to make when in cash flow issues, Keisha, I've eaten a lot of ramen noodles in my life. There was a 3-week period where I was living in Toronto. So thankfully I was in a country that had, safety systems if I really needed them. And I come from a family that I could have borrowed $100 from if I needed to, but I was stubborn. I didn't want to. I was embarrassed. I had $2. I had a toonie in Canadian dollars. I had $2 and I did not know. I knew that there was like $1,000 coming my way, but I didn't know when. I genuinely didn't know how long it was going to take. Like, is it in the mail? Is it coming today or tomorrow? So I went to the local corner store and for $2, I could buy 4 ramen packages, right? Because they were 25 cents each. Like it was it wasn't ramen. It wasn't that fancy. I take it back. It was like instant noodles, whatever those like crappy little 25-cent instant noodles are. And I broke them into 4 so that I would have 4 times 8. What is that? 24 servings, 32 servings. And I had a quarter of a ramen package at lunch and at dinner. So if I ate them at 2 times and I had 32 servings, I could get by for 16 days in a real pickle. I had good drinking water and I had a quarter of a ramen. Anyways, sometimes you got to do what you got to do. I had to cut my expenses, right? Instead of taking on more debt, instead of perpetuating the problem, I was like, you know what? I'm ending this craziness and I am just going to live with my reality and I'm going to cut my expenses and I'm going to focus on bringing revenue in. And as ridiculous as like an extreme as that example is, I don't want that for any of you, obviously. I'm so glad I didn't go ask for other money. I'm so glad I didn't take on debt that was going to have emotional baggage with it. I'm so glad I held myself accountable to figuring it out and saying, okay, instead of going and looking for a different solution, let me focus on the primary solution, which is more revenue, making this thing work. Okay. Cutting expenses is a powerful exercise. If you're going for coffee every day, I love that, but don't. Stop it. Make your own coffee for a little while, right? If you are ordering in food because you're burnt out, that's expensive. It's adding different pressure to your life. So start making your food again for a while, right? Give yourself some treats here and there. I'm a big believer in treats. I always want everyone to have treats, but cut the expenses you can, because if you're not beholden to a lot of expenses, you can continue to make decisions that keep you aligned to your strategy. But if your expenses are high, it will force you into unstrategic interventions. That's okay. It's not the end of the world, but it's ideal if you don't have to get there. It's ideal if you don't have to lose your strategy in the name of survival. Okay. So is your what, who, and scale aligned, relevant, changing? What do we have to pay attention to? Are your revenue streams direct extensions of how you deliver what you do, with 3 to 5 as the magic number, not more, not less, like Goldilocks? Have you thought about every single way you could cut your expenses so that the pressure on you comes down a little bit? Can you cut anything and everything? I very intentionally, I actually just did about half of this last week. I cut 20% of my expenses every single year, because even though I'm pretty cheap and frugal, and even though I'm pretty disciplined about what I spend money on, I'm not a big consumer. I don't buy a lot of things. Life just happens. All of a sudden, we've got these extra subscriptions, and all of a sudden, we have this new habit that we don't even really care about, but we spend money on it. And all of a sudden, we spend 20% more. 20% is a lot of money. That's your profit margin, right? If you can cut 20% of your expenses, that buys you 3 more months of runway, right? So there's a lot of little tiny bleeds that happen on expenses. And if we can limit them, it gives you more options. It just gives you more agency. Okay. Now, the last thing that I want us to think about and reflect on, and then we're going to open up the room for conversation, is profit margins. Profit margins are math. Okay. If you sell something for $100, that's your price point. So each of your revenue streams, you sell something. That's your pricing. So I sell Slap for $300 a month, let's say. So that's the price. That's the revenue, right? That's the top line revenue. But we don't get to keep everything when we sell something, right? Most of us have to. I saw Lorraine in the room earlier. Lorraine makes jewelry. So maybe I buy a piece of Lorraine's jewelry for $500, but then she has to buy the materials, the stones, the clasps, right? So maybe Lorraine spends $200 in materials. But then she has to actually make the thing, right? Maybe she spends 10 hours on it and her hourly rate is worth $200 an hour. That's another $2,000. So Lorraine has, $200. Yeah. So Lorraine has sold me something for $500. She has $500 in revenue, but her profit is only $100 by the time she's paid for labor and materials. So her profit margin is 20%, right? So every dollar you make, you don't get to keep and spend, right? You have to pay for the cost of delivery. Your profit margin is what is left after the cost of delivery. And most of the time, what happens is you guys forget to calculate your own time into cost of delivery. And so you end up maxed out. you end up stressed and burnt out because you're pretending your business is profitable, but it's not, because you are working 200 hours a week and not paying yourself, right? And so it's not that's not sustainable. That's not a sustainable, profitable business. So when you look at your revenue streams that we just spoke about, right? The profit margin equation that I believe in is a triangle. And good businesses, good business strategy has all three of these things in a triangle. If you were at the Sasser retreat a couple weekends ago, there's a little funny inside joke about this triangle, which I will not give it all because it's a little bit inappropriate, but it's a triangle. Okay. The three things that all have to be accounted for, right? And to be profitable and sustainable, to build a business with revenue streams that are worth growing, are that the price point you charge has to be something your ideal client can bear, right? I've had so many people say to me, Chris, I can't believe Slap is so cheap. You should charge more for it. I get it. That's what the value is. But I also am here to serve small business owners, right? With limited cash flow and realities. And so I won't increase the price. It is what it is. That is what I believe small businesses can bear. I'm comfortable with that. So could I charge somebody else more for Slap? Could I go work for, sales organizations and have them put their whole sales teams on Slap and make, way more money per user? Yeah. I don't know. I like you guys. You're my ideal client. So my price point has to align back to my ideal client. Does the amount that I'm charging, am I being fair and reasonable to myself, but can my ideal client bear it, right? Is it an amount my ideal client can bear? So that's the first thing. The price point ties back to your ideal client. Is it a price point they can afford? The second consideration, right, is your own, I'll go to that one last. Your second consideration is the quality of what you deliver, right? If you bring your price point down in order to make it more affordable, but then your ability to deliver a high quality product goes down, right? That's not going to work. So your price point has to match your ideal client's ability to pay for it, but also the quality of what you deliver. And then of course, the third is your own profit margin, right? So when you look at the cost of delivery, your labor, your time, and your materials, you've got to be able to charge enough, right? That the quality stays high and you can stay profitable. A good revenue stream should have a minimum profit margin, minimum profit margin. I mean, I think it should be 40%. Ideally, I'd like to see it at 50 to 60% in order to be a sustainable business. Because once you pay for your cost of delivery and you've got your profit margin, then you have to actually go cover your fixed costs, right? You still have to cover your operating expenses. So that's not money. That's not your profit. That's your profit margin, right? And that profit margin and the money that comes out is what covers your operating expenses. So what happens in a lot of revenue streams, when you do the evaluation of your revenue streams and you do the evaluation of your expenses, you're doing work that's not profitable enough to actually be sustainable. And so then the burden of our responsibility strategically is to ask, could I increase my price point, right, without breaking what my ideal client can bear? Could I decrease my variable expenses, the time and materials that I spend to deliver the thing? And could I do either of those things without compromising the quality of the work that I deliver? And then you go around and around and around and around and around and around and around those three questions until you figure out if you can design a revenue stream that works. And if you can't, you cut the revenue stream. I think one of the biggest mistakes that I've made as a business owner is that I held on to revenue streams that were not profitable enough for too long because I was invested in them because they generated revenue. People wanted to buy them. Whoa, right? Who cares? They were putting me in the hole. I was better off going to a movie on a Wednesday afternoon than making one more of those sales because I made the sale, but it put me further. I was working my butt off. I was, not making any money on the sale. Why would I do that? Right? It makes no sense. So good business owners cut bad revenue streams and then add new ones. That's where good innovation happens, right? Innovation doesn't happen by throwing your what and who out the window every 5 minutes. Good innovation happens by holding strong on your what and who with this little post-COVID, relevance caveat, And then innovating in your revenue streams, right? I have never changed my slab statement. 19 years in business. I sell slabs to James on a global scale. I sell slabs to James on a global scale. I've done it since the day I started this company in my apartment in Toronto in 2004. That was my plan. I was going to figure out how to help small businesses grow globally. So little Carissa, $2 in my bank account in a tiny apartment in Toronto, Canada. But it was global from day one in my mind. My scale was always global. I knew it. That's never changed. I have been relentless about that for this whole period of time. But what has changed dramatically is how I do what I do, right? Our revenue streams. We were a consulting business for a while. We sold slabs through consulting. Then we were a training business. I traveled the world training slab, right? Then we became the software business. I have very significantly innovated how we do what we do, but I've never changed what or who or scale. I've never changed what we're here to do, the person we're here to do it for, or the scale we're planning to do it on. But I have forced myself to release and try to add revenue streams, the way we do what we do, how we do what we do, to acknowledge the fact that the ones that were not very good had to go, because what's the point of having a bad revenue stream? And then my job as an entrepreneur was to be creative enough to come up with new ideas. Well, wait, how could I deliver this differently? How could I do what I do differently, right? What is another option for a revenue stream where I can find a profit margin of at least 40%, where the price point works for the customer, the quality stays high, and I can handle the cost of delivery without lowering the profit margin, right? That's good innovation. That's good shifts in strategy. Okay. So as we think about profitable, sustainable revenue, it will be almost impossible for you to be profitable and sustainable if you don't have a clear slab statement, right? That you really believe is accurate and right for the time we're in. If you don't have 3 to 5 revenue streams, right? That all have those clear profit margins that work. And if you're not willing to cut the ones that don't work and try to innovate on new ones, potentially to get to the 3 to 5 that all meet those requirements of the price point the small business can, or sorry, your customer can bear, quality you're proud of, enough margin to deliver, right? Time and materials, and keep your profit margin over 40%. And if you don't, right, if you don't try to find every way to release the pressure of expenses, it means you're in a higher pressure situation. And when you're in a high pressure situation, you make bad strategic choices, right? Strategy goes out the window under pressure. And so my mission is to help you guys find every single way to reduce your pressure so that you've got the capacity to handle, right, making good strategic choices. If you have, I would be so bold as to say, let me test this statement and then we'll open the floor. I would be so bold to say that I think in 19 years, I have seen very few exceptions, maybe no exceptions, that if a small business owner has an extremely clear slab statement, right, that is relevant, true, they're passionate about it, they're committed to it, right, what, who, scale, does the work to constantly, right, iterate and optimize and make sure their revenue streams are solid, and manages their expenses, keeps their expenses as low as possible so that the pressure goes low, right, stays low. And then they just are laser focused on implementing all time and all money and all energy against that very clear plan. I have rarely seen a small business owner not succeed. I have seen many small business owners not succeed by trying to do too many things for too many people, too many whats, too many hues, unorganized revenue streams, lots of expenses, and a lack of discipline around driving time and energy against a specific outcome, right? It's not that hard. I'm going to say something that's ridiculous. I don't even believe what I'm about to say. It is not complicated. I believe this now. It is not complicated to make money. It's actually very simple. If we've made it complicated, that's where we've lost our way, right? Slap is trying to help you guys keep it really simple. 1 what, 1 who, 1 scale, 3 to 5 revenue streams. Every revenue stream with a 40% profit margin or higher, 1 action plan to spend all of your time and all of your money and all of your energy connecting with your ideal client to sell and deliver your 3 to 5 revenue streams. Period. And if you're doing that, I think you're going to succeed. Not because Slap is amazing, because business is simple. And if you use Slap, you're allowing it to stay simple. But if you're not doing that, it's the mess that we create is why the business fails. Not because the business can't succeed and not because you're not smart and amazing, but because we let ourselves live in this mess of too many what's and too many needs and too many who's and too many revenue streams and doing work that's not ultimately profitable and sustainable, right? Which isn't helping you at all. So what's the point? Okay, let's open the floor. What are we thinking? What questions do we have? Yeah, so Tam, I'm just gonna start answering things. So my revenue streams should not be the products I sell, but where, how I sell them. No. So your revenue streams are exactly what you sell. So if I'm a jewelry designer, my revenue streams might be a ring, a bracelet, and a set of earrings, right? And my rings are all $1,000, my bracelets are all $400, and my earrings are all $300, right? One thing I'll just say as a side, standardized pricing is the way of your life, my friends. If you are deciding on every single sale you make a brand new price for it, whoo, that sucks, right? Bulk your things you sell and standardize your pricing. It will make your life so much easier. So if you sell earrings, maybe you've got 2 types, right? Like the $300 earring and the $800 earring for the fancy stones, right? But you want to standardize your pricing as much as possible, because that's how you can track and understand, right, your profit margin. You don't want to be doing that calculation every single time you're trying to make a sale. Okay, Sharon, talk to us. I see your hand.
Hi, I have to leave my camera off. It took me half an hour to get on. My son doesn't have very good bandwidth, and it's raining.
No. Okay, we're glad to have you.
So
you made it.
For me, you really honed in on what's happening now, which, by the way, I owe you a big thank you, and I can tell you about that later. Life is good. It's better. But you made me really think about this book that I'm reading called The One Thing. And the best description he gave was in the book, one, he talked about the movie Blazing Saddles, but the part where it's which is first Star Wars or the merchandise, and you can't have, yes, Adriana, it's awesome. I'm not done, but it's awesome. If you didn't have Star Wars, you couldn't sell the billions of dollars for, Grogu, which that's my heart right there. But it really, because I've been stepping back I knew everything worked together. I didn't know how it worked together until you said what you said, which was, it was, hold on. Oh, I do through. And it was like everything else that I've been working on, even this week with Nathari. And it's like, oh my God, it's like clarity. Like there's angels singing right now. I'm so excited. And I only had 1 cup of half decaf, half regular. And I'm like, oh my God, I can't wait for you to get done. I really want you to be done already because I want to go work. But it's just amazing because everything that I'm doing with so my thing is I do, goal setting through. One is by building community, and I'm using even the magazine because it's part of my my structure. I'm using that to build community. I'm using it to then, have other women write for it. And I'm like, oh, that makes sense now. And then I have my workshops. That's my second one. And that's all the trainings and stuff that I've been working on developing. And then the coaching. I'm done. I'm like, it finally makes freaking sense. Like,
yes.
It has been like, oh my God. It's just, yeah. So thank you. Thank you. I'm so grateful for you.
Sharon, I love it. Thank you. And here's one of the things that I want to say about what you just said, Sharon. You were already doing all those things. But when you realize how you can align it against your SLAP statement, it actually makes the things you're doing make more sense. I had an aha recently, actually, where I was like, oh, that's why I'm doing that thing. Because my subconscious knew somehow that it was going to add up and layer into this goal that I had. But I hadn't put the pieces together yet because quite frankly, do you know why? I'll tell you why. because I'm too busy right now, right? I'm stuck stage 1. I'm busy. The enemy of strategic thinking is being busy, right? So I'm smart. You're all smart. I could have put it together faster. I didn't because I'm too busy right now. So let this be a warning to all of us. Stuck stage 1 is busy. It's not a good place to be. It is not strategic. Once you're busy, overwhelmed, right? Lost your passion, want to quit, stuck stage 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Your brain is hijacked. You are no longer able to be strategic. So I am confessing out loud. I have been stuck stage 1. I am too busy. And so I didn't catch my strategic little brain working for me. Thankfully, it was working for me despite myself. But it's so empowering when it becomes aligned. When you're doing one thing well, not doing a million things haphazardly, right? SLAP is trying to get you to do one thing well. Sell what you do to your ideal client on the scale that makes sense to you. Over and over and over and over again, right? I've been selling slaps to James on a global scale for 19 years. And I am more passionate about it today than I was 19 years ago. I'm not losing my steam. I am picking up my steam because it's so motivating to see that you have a vision and it becomes realized and you can see the progress and you get better at it the longer you do it, right? And so, I love Sharon's example because it's not about throwing out what you're doing. It's about getting it into alignment, right? It's about understanding what you're doing that makes sense and that aligns, and what it might be time to beautifully and joyfully cut. And once it's in alignment, there is so much relief that comes, and it's fun. It's so much more fun, right? If you're not having fun, you're probably out of alignment, because it's fun to build something you believe in. It's fun to have clarity and to align against that clarity and keep going for it. It's hard, but it's fun, right? If you're not having fun, you probably don't have alignment. You're probably doing too many things instead of just one core thing over and over and over again, right? So Sharon, that's a great example. Things you're already doing, but now all of a sudden you see they're the 3 revenue streams, the 3 ways of doing how you do what you do. And all of a sudden, even I was noticing one thing you said that I thought was so interesting that I think we could all learn from. They're like, oh, this is why I do a magazine. It's for building community, because my what is to build community. That's going to change how she edits the magazine. That's going to change the content she chooses to write. That's going to align the people she chooses to profile, right? Every strategic decision that we think we're making, right? If Sharon has on her calendar to, go to her editorial calendar tomorrow, but she thought that she had to be an expert at building an editorial calendar, that could be a very stressful activity. But if her job is to figure out how to leverage her magazine content to build community, her one what, it's going to be really easy for her to decide what her editorial calendar is. When everything is aligned, every single decision gets easy. When things are not aligned, every single decision feels like a one-off, but they're not. If you're making any one-off decisions, you've lost your alignment. It's all the same thing over and over and over again. And that's how you get momentum. And that's how you prevent running out of time and money. All right, Balanli.
I'd like to defer to Lorraine West because she asked to go and her hand is not working. So could I please go after her?
Yes, Lorraine, where are you?
I'm here. Hi, everybody.
There you are. Hey, Lorraine.
So the last time we were all together, I realized that I lost touch with my customer. And every time I put something out into the universe, I get things back that affirm, right? So from the last time we spoke, I've, for the first time, attracted mentorship just like organically from this diamond company that really likes me. They invited me to this big gala. I met like some of the most powerful people that I didn't even know existed. And just the way they introduced me, and they're just like, Lorraine, you're so amazing. You need to be making money. You're not charging enough. So they're like, we want to help you, whether you buy diamonds from us or not. We had a session. They were like, listen, you take the information that works and you leave the rest. We don't care. You do, this is your business. Right. It's what you do, right? So what I realized in hindsight from that time, last time we met, is that I have to stop doing the most. I do the most. Like I'm selling bridal. I'm selling custom fine. I'm selling pieces online. I'm doing all these like special projects that's giving me visibility, but it's not necessarily bringing me profit. I'm doing things for the stylist. So now I'm starting to say no to people. Some people, they're a little agitated with me and frustrated. You know what? I don't care FUCK anymore, because my bank account is not reflecting upon where I am in the industry and how I'm being seen. So my profit is 40 to 50%, sometimes more, but I'm not selling enough. Things are taking too long. One of my retailers said my prices are too high. And I said, you know, I'm doing all these onesies. I don't have the revenue. So I'm realizing to myself, I may have to make some hard decisions. I may not be able to sell to retailers. I may only double my profit instead of, because I'm selling to retailers at 2.0 to 2.1, right? Then they're marking it up to match or more. So now it's like 4 to 4.2. How can I compete with these other people that do have the money from mommy and daddy and all the, and no disrespect to them, I wish I had that, but that's not the case. So it's hard to compete with the people that have the revenue, right? I mean, they have the revenue, they have
They've got the cash.
they have the capital, right?
Yeah.
So I went through all this emotions. I was just like, I don't want to go backwards. I don't want to, you know. So I realized I just have some hard decisions to make, and it may not make people happy, but it's not about that anymore. It's like, I need to make money. I was burnt out the majority of the year. I feel way more focused, and that's why I could even come up with this. So, you know, I'm going to go back and readjust my SLAP statement, because my SLAP statement is about, like, I sell bridal on a national scale, but I want to sell on a global scale. And even though I want to participate in all these other aspects of selling, the bridal is what brings me the most money. It may not always be as like, oh, a celebrity may not wear it, but maybe I'll get in Martha Stewart's magazine, or, you know, I can still keep that high level stuff going. But I feel like that's my strength. My strength is like fine and high jewelry, like that sentimental that someone can have as an heirloom piece, and everything else goes underneath. So it's really hard for me, because like, I don't necessarily think I need to stop. I can still keep the 3 to 5 revenue streams, but I got to go back to that original statement, because I changed it to like, oh, I need to focus on operations and SOPs. Yes, I need to do that too, but I need to sell my product. So I'm recalibrating my systems, like seeing what works, what doesn't work. Going to update. I'm taking the month of January off to like continue the plan and execute for February. Need to add that category to the website and go hard in the paint and see what happens. So that's where I'm at.
I love it. I love it. I love it. There are 3 things I want to just reinforce, if that's okay, Lorraine, that I love that you said, and I want others to really hear it, and I want to celebrate it in you. The first is, right, recognizing that to do something well, it means saying no to everything else, right? No, right? We say this all the time in SLAP. I'm terrible at saying no. Again, this is exactly why I built SLAP, because I need every single one of the lessons in it so badly. I need SLAP. I use SLAP. I need it so badly. No is, you guys should be, ideally, we're all saying no 95% of the time. There is opportunity everywhere. That's the mental shift. The risk is not that you will not find opportunity, any of you. The risk is that you will spend your time and money on the wrong opportunity, or the unideal opportunity, or the unaligned opportunity. It is not true that there's not enough opportunity. There is opportunity everywhere. That's why you're all so bloody busy. That's why you're all going to 29 different things every week, right? So like Lorraine, what you're describing is the mindset shift from I must do everything, which is a scarcity mentality, right? Trying to do it all and more is actually coming from a place of scarcity, to this like abundance mentality. There are so many demands and opportunities for me that I am going to become rigorous about what I say yes and what I say no to, right? That is a critical shift that will change all of your lives. I thankfully, through years of therapy and unending amount of work and mistakes, I made that shift, and it changed my life. So Lorraine, I am seeing that shift, and it's changing your life, and I can only imagine the joy that it will bring. The second thing Lorraine said that I think we can all really think about for ourselves, right? How we apply it to ourselves is that Lorraine is saying, I do all these fancy things and it looks oh so good, but it doesn't make me any money. I am going to challenge all of you to get off of your like hype box and into your revenue box. Who cares if it looks good? I want you to generate revenue, profitable, sustainable revenue. And yes, having some good PR and yes, doing some of those lovely, yes, of course, that is valuable at times. But the primary objective has got to be revenue, always. So if you're trying to decide, do I spend 4 hours writing social content, to build my followers, or do I make 5 sales calls to generate revenue? The answer is make 5 sales calls. There's no question about it. The answer is always the direct path to revenue. That is always the right decision. Every single time, all the time, every time, for sure. And then the third thing that Lorraine said that I love is, right? I am going to take my own time to figure this out. I'm going to take January off. That's an audacious statement from a small business owner, right? I'm calling it. I'm doing an intervention on this busyness, and I will create the conditions to have enough space to think strategically enough to figure this out for my business. I'm going to be thoughtful, right? Good business leaders think, right? What did we do when we started this session? I made us all think for 1 minute, right? How much happened in 1 minute? Imagine you thought for an hour. Imagine you took a whole day and you just thought about your business. Imagine that's your job. Your job as a CEO is to think. That's what the pause and reflect structure in SLAP is, right? We're trying to game your systems. We're trying to do an interjection on your busyness and have you pause and reflect and think, right? Successful people think. They think well, right? They learn about their thought patterns. They have space to think. They think. So I just want to celebrate so many of those things. And again, Lorraine was in a strategy meet, I think only a month ago, right? And look how much has changed in only a month. Like, you guys, change is possible. You have agency. You can make choices and see the benefit of it instantly, immediately. It's possible, right? We've been taught, we've been living in this world where the expectation is so unreasonable. Raise millions and sell for billions, right? Where there's so much systemic injustice that it just feels like none of it's possible. But it's not true, right? If we take responsibility to set the right goals, if we take responsibility to do it on our own terms, and then if we align our action and our energy and our behavior against the outcomes we want, it's totally possible. I mean, I just love it. I love Brian's 1 minute shift. I love Lorraine's 1 month shift. I love these demonstrations, right? Right in front of our eyes of change, going from A to B in a short period of time, right? Significant shifts. All right, Belanley, and then Herman. Come on, nice to see you, Herman. All right, Belanley.
All right. You know what? I just love you.
I love you guys so much.
I deeply appreciate the simplicity with which you've broken it down in terms of how we're thinking about, our revenue, how we think about money and where it comes from, the source of it, and why it's important that we build sustainable, profitable businesses. You made it so clear. It is just not at all hard to see. and the questions about our SLAP and what we've, the revisiting our ideal client revenue streams, our expenses and our profit margins, it sets, immediately implementable steps to just evaluate. And I want to say thank you to my coach, Agnes, because she helped put me on that path by revisiting, the build and that kind of thing. And she put some really great understandings in my head to even bring me to this point to be part of this meeting with you, because she's like, you need to be here. And she's so right. And so I'm thrilled. Thank you.
We're glad you are here. You're in my top corner, Belanley, so I've seen your face and you're nodding, and it's been very encouraging for me the whole time. So thank you. I've been feeling I've been feeling you this whole time we've been together.
Thank you.
Herman, just a note on what you said, by the way. I think all of you in this room know this. If you don't, figure it out soon. The slap experts at Silver Lining are amazing. I don't even know what to say. I don't think all of you people fully understand and appreciate maybe what is happening. There are these incredible humans who are so trained and so equipped and so passionate and so committed to your success. I don't even understand. It is like, if I had like an entrepreneur dream 19 years ago, it would be to figure out, right, like how to have a team like this who cares about you all as much as I do, and then who is also really good at what they do. They're amazing. And I just want every small business in the room to remember, you have unlimited access to them. Unlimited. If you want them to call you every single day to hold you accountable, to help you think about something, they do. They can. If you want to talk to them every week, if you want to talk, I mean, you have unlimited access to this incredible group of human beings who care about you so much and who will advocate for you, even when you are struggling to do it yourself. So use it, use that support. I tell this stat all the time because I think it's so bananas. 93% of the support we give you guys, we initiate. 7% you initiate, right? What does that tell us? You got to initiate support more, right? Get good at asking for help. Get good at asking for structure and support. Get good at saying, oh, you know what? If I had my mindset call on Tuesday mornings at 9 a.m., that could kick me off into like a weekly strategic thinking plan. And I'll use that accountability to get my brain in the right space. And then I'll use it, right? Use our infrastructure. We are built for you. Use these amazing humans to get everything you need to set yourself up for success. They're amazing. And you get unlimited support at no extra cost. So use it. Use it. Change that stat. Change the stat so that next year it's 90% we initiate, 10% you initiate, right? Use it. Responsible people activate structure and support, right? It's not a sign of weakness. It's a sign of responsibility. All right, Herman.
Yeah, well, you know what? You had said something that that made me think. Earlier on, you were talking about community and and I like that's what I really like about the view of the program itself, because I'm really community based, and some of the biggest problems I have now are just trying to find people that share that same kind of passion, because everybody doesn't want to work with kids. Trust me. I mean, everybody doesn't want to work with kids. And that's what I find sometimes. Some people do it for a job, but the commitment to try to make a change, to make a difference. I had a kid, and I've taken this kid with me to church, and my men's group, pray for him, all this kind of stuff. And I believe in him, but I'm not giving up on him, because, the other day he stole something from me. Basically, he lied about it and said that his mother said this. When I asked her, she said, no, I didn't say that. I said, no problem. I got some wax on, some wax off this weekend. He'll work with me this weekend. But my biggest thing now is finding help. I've been really blessed lately. One of my programs, like you said, one of my main streams is the after school program. We're getting so many kids in there, I can't take anymore. My staff's like, Mr. Maker, we have too many kids. My place is maybe about 2,400 square feet, and we had like 40 kids that's in the after school program. I said, it's easy for you to say that because you're getting paid. I said, for me, kind of rebounding off code, you're not going to turn down business. I don't think nobody here would turn down any kind of business, So I can look at it as a blessing. I said, well, look, instead of trying to buy this and buy that, find other ways that we can educate and keep these kids entertained and stuff. Because a lot of these kids, they get passed over in school. Some of the kids, the slow kids that are learning a little slow, they have to have a little extra help. And so I said, okay, look, let's have math day. Let's have reading day. We do the martial arts 4 days out the week. But on the 5th day, we usually have it's like fun day. If they're doing right, they can do things. We try to do something where it's constructive and it's also helping them. Because I have parents say, hey, Mr. Maker, your program has really helped my kids. And that's what I wanted to be about, So my biggest thing now is just trying to find some help. So I'm hoping and praying. I know it's going to come, but I guess it's like testing season right now. See if I'm gonna stay the course.
We want you to stay the course, Herman.
Oh, I ain't quitting.
I know you're not. You're going to stay the course. Two things I want to say about you, Herman, just in front of the group. We've known each other for a long time. I think you've had a slap for, I don't know, maybe 5, 6, 7.
I was gonna say that. Yeah, I remember when you came to that church, our church. Yes.
Like a long time ago.
Yeah.
And when I think about what SLAP is about, right? Herman is an example of this. Herman, how many years ago did you start your business?
Shoot, I retired in 1999. I started my business in 1999 after I got out the military. So I've been doing it since
25 years next year.
Yeah.
But so here's what's critical, right? About a story like Herman, He did not have to start this business. He could have done a million other things, right? His business is not just about making money, although it is critical and he deserves to make money and be profitable and sustainable. But the impact that Herman has had as he's built a for-profit business on his community, on all the kids that take his classes, his self-defense classes, it's significant. It matters. And that's the real story of entrepreneurship. It's Herman. It's all of you. It's not some dude raising millions and selling for billions and creating false economy and getting a bunch of people rich. It's Herman and it's you guys. And that's why this work matters. That's why it matters that each of you succeed, because this is the story of entrepreneurship. It's each of you. And Herman's version of a world where he built a business he didn't have to, doing something he's passionate about, right, has helped so many people. And in the 8 or 9 years that I've known him, has also become, right, much more financially sustainable and much more intentional about his growth, to the point where I actually don't even know if Herman knows this, but the American Small Business Growth Program, which is the program that's supported by Wells Fargo, that is one of the things we do in the US. We ran these challenges last year, and Herman is one of the winners of one of the challenges that we ran, which means that Herman, I don't even think you know this, but it means you and I, along with one other winner and an executive from Wells Fargo, are going on an all expenses paid trip somewhere for a fun night out, which is very fun. And I was so happy when you won. And I cheered that you won. Tell my daughter about that. Yeah. So to be continued. But I say all this to say, this is the business we're all in, you guys. We are in the business of building organizations, whether they are for profit or not for profit. I don't care, you file your taxes. But where someone like Herman deserves the recognition of winning a challenge, getting thanked, right, for the behavior, the day-to-day commitment, right, to growing his organization, his profitability, his impact, his own wellness, all in alignment. This is what we're doing. This is what we're all doing here.
Carissa, I gotta say one thing, because I think everybody's in the, if they're listening to you, they're in this for the right reason, and when I knew that, I've always had a good heart, and I knew that I was doing something right. But when this lady called me, she came into our school and we made her feel like family. And she said, and she was dying. She said her cancer came back, and she called me and said, Mr. Meek, I just want to call you and let you know that, my cancer came back and I only have so many days to live. And I'm like, Nick, it touched me like, man, you calling me? I mean, what did I do? You know what I'm saying? Like, what did I do to deserve this? I mean, you're calling me just to say thank you. That just touched my heart. I got guys that were in special forces, guys that I started teaching in Germany. They came back to see me and they say, Sensei, you made a difference in my my life. And that's why I changed it from Makin's Karate and Fitness to Extreme Impact, because I wanted to say we go above and beyond. So we changed the name. We don't even spell extreme the way it's supposed to be spelled. We don't spell impact the way it's supposed to be spelled. So my business is like a testament of my faith. And, you can say you're this, but when you walk it and you show it, it's something different. And, so I've been fortunate and blessed to meet you, and, be a part of this group. Yeah, people like Omar, Susanna, and Gabriel online, they help me out, push me through. So I really appreciate this. I appreciate your team.
Thank you. We love you. And listen, your guys' success matters. It matters that you grow your small business. It matters that you are more profitable and sustainable, because it has a direct correlation to the impact you can all have. It matters to me that Herman's business grows, because if it grows, he can do more, right? We have more influence. And so it matters that every one of you are successful. It matters that you take it seriously, because it is how we change the world. It is one small business at a time. I mean, if I did not believe that to my core, I couldn't do this work, because it's hard. But I believe that each of you being a little bit more successful collectively creates the change in the world that we need. Okay, Jamila, talk to us. I know we're going to end in 5 minutes and create a space for those of you that block 3 hours for this. We're going to intentionally give you that hour to go think about all of this information. So my intention is to wrap us up in the next 5 minutes from the shared part of this. But let's get Jamila, Agnes, and Brian's questions, and then I've got a quick wrap up exercise. So we might be 5 after. Let's see how quickly we can get through. But Jamila, talk to us.
Okay, so I'm keep it quick. I had to stop everything for a moment and become a caregiver full time. So my business was striving, was picking up, it was doing pretty well, and then could put everything. I have a hero, so thank you for your service, Herman. I actually take care of a veteran now, full time, along with now getting my business reorganized. So I was messy. Although I was making money, it was a messy business. I've taken this time to restructure, rebrand, everything. And we are now just kind of getting back into the swing of things. I'm really, really excited. I've taken a lot of your advice being a business consultant. I'm a consultant in business, technology, and digital marketing. The three align with each other. I took all of everything I do and bundled it. And now just kind of like, you just gave me confirmation that I'm on the right track. And I want to thank everybody for just all the advice and support and information. Diego for staying on me. I did kind of stop the program, and now I'm really ready to kind of get back to it. And one of the big things is just kind of getting my slap started over. Really, it's a whole new direction. I'm super excited about it. And I'm just ready. I'm ready to go.
I love it. I love it. I love that you are. Two things I want to say. There's a lot of people in this room and the world, right, that are having life interventions right now, their own health challenges, caretaking of others, right? I mean, there is sort of like a sort of unspoken but very significant, I think, amount of sickness in the world right now. And we talked about this quite a bit at a SLAP strategy session recently. When things are hard or when there is a life intervention like that, my encouragement to all of you guys is to do 2 things immediately. Number 1, go and simplify your SLAP, right? Decrease the burden on yourself. Get your goal down to the absolute minimum amount of money that you can survive on, and also, right, decrease the burden, realign your goals to align with your reality. And so decrease goals, double down on structure and support. Because when we have outside circumstances, right, that are really interfering with our ability to stay the course, like caring for someone, which is beautiful, but hard, then it's harder to get back into strategic thinking mode. It's harder to get back into business in that like 3 hours while they're having their afternoon nap, let's say, right? And so you can game that reality. So what I see happen when people go through personal crisis, the instinct is to either walk away from their goals entirely, right? I can't do it all, but you can. I believe you can. And or to like say, I'm going to keep these goals and I'm going to keep going. Well, then you're going to fail, right? Or to say, I got to quit SLAP or I got to quit these other things because I'm overwhelmed. The right answer always is right size your goals to match your reality. So keep a goal. We are business owners. We need goals in good times and in bad times and hard times and all the times, but decrease the goal to align to what you can reasonably deliver on. Keep building the neural pathways that say, no matter what comes at me, I can handle it, right? I can be responsible and I can keep doing it. But don't walk away from structure and support like SLAP. Double down on it, right? What I would want for anyone caretaking in the room is if you know that you've got precious time every day at 1 o'clock when, let's say a mom is sleeping, or that Friday mornings, the outside help comes in for the afternoon. And so you know that, you've got a chunk of time. Schedule your mindset call at the beginning of wherever you've got that free space, right? Borrow outside structure and support to help you get into the rhythm that you might struggle to because you're justifiably exhausted, right? Distracted, pulled in a million directions. So there we probably could do a whole summer summit on this, right? When crisis comes, cash flow, personal health, right? And there's a lot of it. What's the strategy to realign goals and double down on support, right? So again, instinct is to release goals and or ignore goals and or give up on goals and walk away from structure and support. What I love what you're saying, Jamila, is I'm choosing to align my goals and I'm doubling down on support, right? I'm not letting this personal reality stop me entirely. So that's the formula. If you have a cash flow crisis, a health crisis, a personal crisis, a life intervention, the formula is realign your goal to your current reality, double down on structure and support. Okay. That's always the right move when crisis comes. And crisis is going to come at us. That's the crappy part, right? Our job is to be skilled at how to handle it. As Jamila, you're articulating beautifully. All right, Agnes Darkhor.
Hi.
Hi.
I'm sorry, I'm not gonna use video because I'm a
That's
shy
okay.
person. You answer most of my question right now, but I still have to ask a question because mine might be a little bit different. So my question is, from the previous stage, you talked about if you come into the business with the mindset of getting a loan, that's exactly me right here. I came into the business with the mindset with that to get a government loan to start a business. But later on realizing that this was not all reality, what I believe was not all reality. And then I have to make another choice. I have to think a different thing. And at this point, sometimes I got confused at the point and wanted to quit, but then I was encouraged to keep going. Like you rightfully said here, simplify, double down. Like, how do you simplify, double down, and like something you said about revenue? I forgot the word, but it's something like where you have to cut down costs to get to where you want to. That's how I understood it. So how do you do this when you don't even have that first money for the business?
Yeah. So we probably should do a whole other session on cash flow and cash hacks is probably what I would say. I've gotten very skilled because I needed to stop taking on debt because I got myself into such a situation and because I decided I did not want to take on equity investments. So it didn't sidetrack me from you guys being my primary stakeholder. I had to get good at cash hacks. So the quick answer to that, and we could talk about it more, Agnes, if it's helpful. But the quick answer to cash hacks are number one, I'm a big believer in going and getting a consciously unaligned contract, not a job. Going and getting a job means that you are going to struggle to build your business because you can't have a full-time job and build a business at the same time. That is a myth. It does not work. Don't do it. But you could get a very intentionally, very consciously, very unaligned contract that basically says, I know this is not my revenue stream. I know that this is not what I'm going to do for the long term, but I'm going to take a 6-month contract at 20 hours a week that I can be that has flexibility in it. That's easy for me to do. Maybe it's based on the skill set I have. It's just enough money to cover my bills. I don't want to get too comfortable. That's one of the big risks. Don't take on a contract that gets you really comfortable because then you're not going to be hustling, right, to drive towards your revenue goals. So I'm a very big believer in figure out the minimum amount of money you need to pay your bills, but not be comfortable, be uncomfortable, but pay your bills, right? Not get into survival mode and do a 6-month contract where someone pays you that minimum amount, ideally for 10 hours a week, 15 hours a week, certainly no more than 20 hours a week of work at the very most, and give yourself a 6-month window. Let that be your investment. Let that be the money that floats you while you work full-time on your business. So that's cash hack number one. Cash hack number two.
I just decided that a couple of days ago.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
Well, then you've got it all figured out. Perfect. Yeah, I love a 6-month non-job contract, consciously unaligned, minimum amount of capital to not make you comfortable, just to make sure you can survive, but to leave you uncomfortable so that your focus remains revenue generation. So that is the number one advice I would give to any of you guys in a cash flow crisis. And then the other one is I would just say, can you sell something? I mean, we spend so much time and energy and money building a pitch deck and trying to find debt and going to bank meetings. Could you just use all that money and sell something, right? Which of your revenue streams can you sell the fastest? Who of your ideal clients could you call first? What can you sell? I really believe that if we took all the energy we spend trying to get debt and investment and grants and just use the same amount of energy to just generate revenue, we could probably make some sales. So if you really need it, it's a 6-month, intentional, uncomfortable, bare minimum contract, intentionally misaligned with your strategy. Don't take a job that's aligned with your strategy because you'll start to get confused. Oh, is this my business? No, it's your cash hack. Don't let it be confusing. Don't let it be like your business. It's a cash hack. I've encouraged a small business to go work at Starbucks like 15 hours a week before. I don't want you to confuse this cash hack contract as a business building activity. It's a workaround. It's a 6-month intervention to give you capital to pay your basic bills so that you've got runway to go generate proper revenue. Don't get a job and don't take a contract that feels like your revenue stream. Either sell an actual contract that is your revenue stream or go do a consciously misaligned minimum revenue cash hack so that you stay uncomfortable enough to really focus on building your business.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thanks, Agnes. Okay, we're at 11:06. Yes, you guys can get the recording. Yes, all this will be available to you. Courtney Napier is in the room. She's fabulous. She's our lead storyteller at Silver Lining. And not only will you guys get a recording, she's going to take all the key lessons, great questions, tips from you guys, highlights from the chat, and she's going to turn it into this beautiful, living, breathing content piece that will be available and beautifully designed and free for you and other small businesses so that all the best things that came from today can be shared out into the world. So that will come to you guys in the weeks to come. But Courtney does gorgeous work taking our collective thoughts and ideas and turning it into content that can benefit more small businesses. So thank you, Courtney, for what I know you will create. And here's how I want us to complete is we've got clarity on the business side, right? We've got clarity on, okay, I kind of think I know what to do, right? What I want us to just come back to is the human side, our human interventions, right? Our human overrides that may prevent us from being able to stay strategic and logical because of something we've been taught, we've caught, we've experienced, because of a personal situation we're in the midst of, right? All these things that happen, right? That override our logic, that override our strategic thinking. So I just want each of you, you don't have to share it, but I want each of you to write down the number one human override that you know about yourself that could put your logic and your strategy at risk. Is it an anxiety you have? Is it a partner that doesn't believe that you're going to figure out your business and is stressed about money and it takes a lot of your energy? Is it a belief system from childhood that you think, XYZ, right? What could be the override? Is it a genuine cash situation? Is it a genuine caretaking situation, right? What's your risk? What's your human override risk? Okay. When we can name it, we can solve it. So what can you do to put structure and support in place to combat that override, right? Do you need to ask a friend to come and help take care of the person you're caretaking for 3 hours a week so that you can think? Do you need to do a mindset call with the SLAP experts every week instead of every month to help you get past your own anxiety, right? About thinking about your SLAP and money, and get you set up and teed up to go into your thinking session? Do you want to find a therapist? Do you want to use the Connect tool in SLAP Center and find a SLAP buddy who might share the same emotions and feelings you're having and just talk for 30 minutes once every 2 weeks and be in community with other people and say things out loud that you feel like you can't tell people you know because they might judge you, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So name the human override that is your biggest risk factor, because your business is not your risk factor. Your business is logic. It just needs a strategy. It needs implementation. There's not really risk factors in your business. There's opportunity everywhere. There is more than enough. You are fine. You can do it. I have no doubt about it. Our risk factor is ourselves, our human overrides that hijack our ability to see clear strategy and execute against it. So I don't want you to wonder or worry about your business risks that much. There's opportunity in everything. We can make money doing anything. Don't worry. Be organized, right? Have your what, your who, your scale, have your revenue streams, make sure your profit margins make sense, limit your expenses, get to work, focus on profitable, sustainable revenue first, use debt only if needed and only if it's fair, avoid equity investment, release your reliance on grants, right? That's strategy, basic. Make sure all your time and money is being spent in pursuit of connecting with your ideal client to hit your sales goals. If you literally just do that little 2.5 second, like that's it, you'll hit your sales goals. The reasons we don't do those things is our human overrides. So what is your biggest human override risk? What is the structure and support you can leverage from this community or beyond it to help you manage your human override? That's true accountability and responsibility, right? It's not magically releasing your human override. We all have them. They're not going anywhere, but it's naming them and then being smart enough, right? Responsible enough, vulnerable enough, courageous enough to say, this is my risk factor. This is what I do. This is what I'm going through. I'm going to add outside structure and support to help me manage my human risk, my human override. Does that resonate? Okay. Examples of things you can do to manage your human override. Book more calls with SLAP experts, right? All of these things are free, right? All of these things take no money. Book more calls with SLAP experts. Use the Connect tool to find other SLAPsters, right? And connect with other people who have shared language, shared experiences, right? That you can speak freely with. Ask your SLAP expert if there are specific resources to help combat a specific situation you're going through. And we might be able to help you connect with a very specific partner or resource or SLAPster that might be able to uniquely support whatever your human override is. Get a therapist. I love a therapist. Everyone needs a therapist. Everyone needs a therapist. And if you're struggling, you really need a therapist, right? So double down on outside practical medical support. If part of your override is like serious anxiety, depression, that's so normal. Courtney wrote a gorgeous de-stress guide for all of us earlier this year that was based on a survey we did to our community, where 76% of you said you're worried about your mental health. That's real. Go to a doctor. There is no shame in getting a prescription to help manage short-term anxiety and depression. Get help. That's right? Add the components that you need so that you can live in your best self, so that you can implement basic strategy. Get the support. That is the answer to everything, right? It's going to be hard. And then the last thing I'll say for the caretakers in the room, literally ask for help, right? It is an impossible task for one person to be the sole caretaker of another. It's too much. It's too much. I don't think it's healthy. It's lovely. It's beautiful, but it's not healthy. So, could you generate more revenue if you had more time and pay someone for a couple hours a week to just give you a break, right? Find for the caretakers in the room, find the practical support, right? So that there is shared burden of just time and space. We cannot do this alone. There's none of us were equipped, and none of us, quite frankly, are capable of doing this alone. Business is simple. We are not. We all have risk factors. Our job is to be responsible enough to know them and add the structure and support to manage them. We will never eliminate ourselves. We can't. So don't eliminate your anxiety, your depression, your caretaking, your cash flow crisis, your belief systems. You kind of can't. But know them, manage them, right? Bring in structure and support. That is my mission to all of you. So if you had 2 action items coming out of this, go rebuild your SLAP, right? Get it right. Get your SLAP right. And in parallel, add 1 piece of outside structure and support that you don't currently have in direct response to whatever your highest human override risk is. Those are the 2 actions. And when those 2 things are happening in parallel, it'll all happen. I believe it. I see it. We've got data to prove it. I know it. I know it to be true. Okay. I'm going to do 2 things in chat. And then we're going to do a quick close out. Number 1, I want you all to add this email address to your calendars, to your phones. support@smallbizsilverlining.com. You guys can email that email address 24/7, 100 times a day for anything that you need. Practice emailing it. Practice asking for what you need. And right this very moment, if you need more support, if you want a SLAP expert to get on a phone to help you do a SLAP rebuild, if you want more mindset calls, if you want help finding another SLAPster in the community, I want you to literally email that email address right now, say what you need. That will create a ticket in our system and we will take care of you. You will get what you need, I promise. So there is the practice of asking for what we need is a beautiful practice. So take that email address, email literally right now. I want help rebuilding my SLAP. I want more mindset calls. I need to connect with SLAP Buddy. I need the recording of this. I don't know, whatever it is that you want. Anything you want, give it a try. Give it a whirl. Ask for what you need. See what happens. My guess is you're going to get it, Crystal. I'm not going to be careful what I ask for. I want you guys to get what you need. We're built for that. Silver Lining is built to give you all what you need. I just want you to ask for it. I just want you to ask for it. Okay. And then one world close. So if you can in chat, if you're by your computer, just type, what's one word? What's the one word, emotion, feeling, action, takeaway that you're going to leave this room with? Because again, action is what matters, right? So taking everything, we've talked about a lot of information in this period. We have gone for it. We have gone deep into it. What's the takeaway? It could be an emotion. It could be an aha. It could be a commitment. It could be a contemplation, but what is the one thing we want to take away from today that is true for you? Because how each of us experience this information will be completely different. And what each of our takeaways are also completely different. All right, let's just look at some of these words. Prioritize, relief, grateful, focus, simplify, 3 to 5 revenue streams, confirmation. Hi, Kristen. Feeling cared for. I'm glad. Good strategy is simple. Yes, we are complicated humans, but good business strategy is simple. Reassuring, action. My action word is action. I love that. Refocus, ease, simplicity, cohesive action, grace. I can have what I want. Yes, we can. You can. If you are willing to align behavior against the outcomes you want, if you're willing to say no to everything else, if you are willing to be focused and strategic, if you are willing to ask for help, you can have anything you want. I believe it to the tips of my toes. I'm convinced of it. Implement, deep insight, trust, perseverance, reigniting, think more. Yes. Isn't that crazy? I mean, what an incredible concept, right? We just need to think more. In 1 minute, think about how much realization and clarity everyone got, right? Think more. You know your answers. You don't need someone to tell you what to do. SLAP is a container, but it's a container to hold your truth, your answers. There's nothing it doesn't matter what I think about your choices, your business, your success. It's about you. SLAP's a container for you to accomplish your version of success. Yes. Ask, pause, think, stay steadfast, keep my passion lit. simplify and double down. Yes, especially in crisis. Simplify and double down on support. Simplify, double down on support. Simplify, double down on support. A lot of us are in crisis. Simplify, double down on support. Don't walk away from support, double down on it. Don't walk away from your business, simplify it. Okay. You are all amazing. This is a small moment in time to be together, and we are here all the time for you. I promise you, if you use that email address, support@smallbusinessmoney.com, we can have unlimited time together. So just keep using it. Keep asking for what you need. When we hear what you need, it also helps us make sure we design for that. And then remember that this is like a big, longer silver summit. But we do meets every week. We're going to be programming and releasing a big list of meets very soon. I'm going to be doing strategy meets at least a couple times a month. So come to those, but other incredible leaders are also doing strategy meets and action meets and all sorts of fun things. We have a silver holiday party in December. So look for that, sign up and come. It's going to be fun. But we are here. So my challenge to you is, if you can, take the next 40 minutes and go implement, go block your calendar, send this email to support update your Slack, right? Go implement against any ahas you've had. Because while it's here and it's fresh, you'll do it, right? If you say, oh, I'll action it in a week, you won't. So take time right now and go take action. That's my challenge to all of you. And then on the time zone front, I am seeing that request from Catherine around time zones. The beauty of our global community is that it's so beautiful. The literal number one challenge at Silver Lining is time zones. It is impossible to find the right time to do anything, because no matter what time we choose, it's bad for at least 25% of the population. So yes. If you go to meets, Sashini and Colombo and our team, we're working very hard to make sure that there are meets in all time zones, so that you don't go to all of them. Don't go to 100 meets a month. That's crazy. Work on your business, but go to like 2 or 3 a month, right? And find the ones with the leaders and at the times that work for you. So our mission at Silver Lining is to have enough meets that you can choose the ones that work for you based on the topic, the leader, and the time. So there'll be a whole library of them. You choose the ones that work for you. In an ideal world, I'd say go to a meet a week, 1 meet a week for a month, but not more than that, because that just means you're getting distracted. Go build your business. Don't go to meets all day long. But Catherine, very well heard on time zones. It is literally one of our biggest issues at Silver Lining. So the new meets schedule will account for all time zones. And just so you guys know, I am going to be leading meets in all time zones as well. So we won't limit who can get access to me based on time zone. So my meets schedule will alternate week to week, so that it touches all the time zones too. Just as a note. So I'll get to spend time with everyone in all time zones. Okay, my friends, take action. Align your Slack and update it. Add the structure and support to manage your human hijack. Those are your 2 parallel paths. And no matter what happens, then you're fine. Good economy, good quarter, bad quarter, crisis, we're okay. There is unlimited opportunity. We have to keep strategically aligning, bring in structure and support. And that is how we will make money, 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 no matter what. All right. Thank you, guys. Thank you to Colombo and to Sashini and our team for setting this all up. Thanks to Courtney for the work she will do with the information. Thanks to everybody. So thank you guys for being here, and to be continued, not the end, to be continued. Thanks, guys. Bye.
Thank you, everybody.
Bye. Good seeing
Bye.
everybody.
Thank you for being here.
Thank you very much.
Love all of you.
Bye,
Bye.
bye, everybody.
Bye, everyone.
Bye,
Continued
everyone.
success.
Have a good day.
Glad to have you. Pleasure, Linda. Pleasure. I will find you that guide. Bye.